Welcome back to White Paper and Chill. In this episode, we're diving deep into a pretty groundbreaking white paper. It proposes this innovative framework for, well, comprehensive interconnectivity in digital finance.
Yeah, we're talking about something they call a true platform of platforms. The idea is to fix some of the biggest fragmentation issues we see, across the whole blockchain landscape right now.
Okay, so what's on the menu for our deep dive today? Let's quickly map it out. We'll cover first the core problem. It's trying to solve this digital finance fragmentation.
Right. Then the ambitious goals Intralayer has set, there are 8 key objectives.
Then we'll get into the architecture, the system itself, how it actually works, its key bits and pieces.
And how it functions as this interesting concept called an algorithmic fiduciary,
Yeah.
and maybe even like a prime brokerage service.
Yeah, that one sounds fascinating. And finally, we'll look at the business model, how it plans to stick around long term, including bridging that gap between DeFi and, traditional finance, CeFi.
Our goal really is to help you understand, you know, do we actually need this? How could it improve crypto overall? And what's the real impact on end users, on builders, and the whole financial ecosystem?
All right, so grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's unpack this white paper. Let's start with the big picture then. What problem is Intralayer fundamentally trying to solve here? The white paper kicks off by saying, look, blockchain's great, DeFi is amazing, but these systems are often stuck in their own little worlds.
Exactly. Think of it like a bunch of islands. Each blockchain network, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, whatever, they're powerful, sure, but they really struggle to talk to each other or move value between them easily. The white paper calls this limited composability and financial interconnectivity.
Right, so if you're a user, what does that actually mean? It probably means higher costs when you move things around. Transactions might be slower, or just the sheer headache, right, of bridging assets between different platforms.
Yeah, it's a clunky.
The white paper argues this whole disjointed setup really holds back market efficiency.
And what's interesting is how they frame it. It's not just, oh, let's fix the tech. It's a bigger idea about moving away from centralized systems, which they see as inefficient, towards something truly decentralized, global, permissionless.
Okay.
But to get there, you absolutely need these robust communication channels to seamlessly facilitate synchronization and value exchange. You need the plumbing.
So do we need this?
Yeah.
From the white paper's view, it's a definite yes. They argue enhancing this interoperability is absolutely crucial for realizing this vision.
Which brings up the key question. How does this actually impact people, like end users?
Yeah, what's in it for them?
Well, the white paper says it reduces the initial costs and complexities of linking platforms. It helps consolidate liquidity, so deeper pools, better prices. It alleviates switching costs, making it easier to move between services.
Okay.
And ultimately, it enriches the end user experience, which should mean, broader access, more inclusivity for builders, the developers. Less need to create fiddly bilateral connections between multiple systems over and over.
Right. Simplifies their life.
Totally. Overall, the claim is it's poised to catalyze international economic and financial integration. Big picture stuff.
Okay, so that sets the stage. The white paper then lays out 8 specific objectives for Intralayer. Let's maybe group these a bit, focus on the what and the why. What are they trying to achieve?
Yeah, 8 is a lot to list, but they really boil down to tackling different facets of that fragmentation problem we just talked about. You can kind of group them.
Like there seems to be a big focus on just connecting things, better data value, liquidity integration. What's the core idea there?
Exactly. Data integration first. The goal is just seamless data exchange between dApps, users, even off-chain systems. Right now, you've got isolated databases, maybe inaccurate data, communication lags. Intralayer wants to be that reliable infrastructure. For builders, that means a solid foundation, less complexity connecting things. For users, more reliable, timely info for your transactions.
Okay, makes sense. Then value integration.
That's about tackling those fragmented pods of value. Moving money or tokens between chains costs more than it should, and it can be risky. Intralayer aims to increase the cost efficiency of value transfers.
So cheaper and safer for users.
Pretty much. Cheaper, safer transfers for end users, and for crypto overall, it just makes capital flow better, makes it more efficient.
And liquidity integration. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, this is crucial. Capital is spread thin across tons of different pools right now. That means higher cost to borrow and more slippage when you trade, basically getting a worse price than you expected.
Right.
Intralayer wants to fix that, maximize cost efficiency by optimizing both the distribution and utilization of liquidity. This is huge for builders trying to launch new tokens or markets.
Yeah.
It eases that bootstrapping liquidity problem.
Finding enough initial capital.
Exactly. And for users, it means better prices, less slippage when you swap assets. Big win.
Okay, so connection is key. Then there seems to be another group around simplifying things and making it scale better, like setup simplicity and unified clearing.
Right. Setup simplicity is about tackling the current complexity. Setting up ways to transact across chains can be a real pain. Intralayer wants to simplify the process by being this single central gateway.
So easier onboarding for new dApps or users.
Yeah, it dramatically cuts the operational complexity for new agents, like dApps. Makes it easier for builders to launch cross-platform stuff and easier for users to actually use it without needing a PhD in crypto.
A unified clearing. Sounds a bit like banking jargon.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
Processing batches of transactions, especially across different blockchains, can be costly and messy. Intralayer aims to consolidate transactions across blockchains.
Okay, like netting things out.
Sort of, yeah.
Right.
Reducing cost and complexity for these multi-layered settlements. The white paper suggests it could drastically reduce the number of interactions needed, potentially from n times n-1 down to just 2n-1. That's a massive efficiency gain for the network. Helps with scalability.
Got it.
Yep.
Then the last group seems focused on growth and just keeping the lights on, optimal agent population, path efficiency, fiscal sustainability.
Exactly. It's about the long-term health of the network. Optimal agent population, basically, network effects. The more people and dApps using it, the more valuable it becomes. Intralayer wants to efficiently bring on new agents to create those efficient transactional paths.
More users, more liquidity, more services, a virtuous cycle.
That's the idea. Then, path efficiency tackles siloed value. Capital that's locked into one specific transaction path can't be used anywhere else. Intralayer wants to enhance capital efficiency so your assets can work harder, be more flexible across different chains and apps. Big benefit for everyone.
And finally, fiscal sustainability.
Absolutely. Long-term viability, making sure expenses don't outstrip revenues, essential for trust and reliability if users and builders are going to depend on it.
Okay, so those are the goals. Ambitious. Now, the really interesting part, how does Intralayer actually do all this? The white paper calls it a multi-purpose, proof-of-stake, consensus-based, decentralized network. That's a mouthful.
It is, but they use a helpful analogy. Think of Intralayer like a multi-chain bank. That helps break it down.
Okay, I like analogies. Let's run with that.
So at the heart of it, you have the smart contract platform, the SCP. Think of this as the bank's head office. It sets the global rules, processes transactions. It's built for high throughput, quick finality.
The central brain?
Kinda, yeah. And within that head office, you have these really important things called Universal Financial Controllers, or UFCs.
UFCs. Okay, what are those? Not the fighting kind, I assume.
No. Think of them as bespoke service agreements within the bank. They're smart contracts on the SCP that define how transactions are cleared, how data is aggregated, how settlements happen automatically across different networks, even potentially off-chain ones.
Wow, okay.
The white paper says UFCs let the SCP act as a unified clearing layer for digital finance. For builders, this is huge, a programmable tool to manage complex multi-chain stuff without reinventing the wheel every time.
Okay, so SCP is the head office, UFCs are the automated rulebooks. Where do the actual assets live? Where are the branches?
That's the intralayer vaults. They're like the bank branches, deployed on all the connected blockchains. These are smart contracts where users deposit assets, access services, they act as liquidity pools too, and they're all connected back to the SCP via those UFCs.
Got it. Branches on different chains. How does money move between branches or get exchanged?
That's the job of the liquidity network and the dynamic function market maker, or DFMM. Think of this as the bank's internal transfer system and its foreign exchange desk, all rolled into one and automated.
Oh, okay.
The DFMM aggregates liquidity from all those vaults and finds the best prices for asset swaps, minimizing that slippage we talked about. It handles both single-chain and cross-chain conversions efficiently.
And how does information get in and out securely, connecting to the outside world?
Two key parts there. First, the Oracle service, DORA. This ensures secure, reliable, and low-latency connections between the blockchain's intralayer connects and external systems like price feeds or other data sources, vital for data connectivity.
Like Chainlink, but integrated.
Conceptually similar role, yeah. And then there's the Cross-Chain Communication Protocol, XCP. This includes specific protocols like Hypernova and Hyperloop. This is the secure messaging system that lets the different parts, the vaults, the SCP, different chains talk to each other efficiently, essential for moving data and value instructions.
Okay, that's a lot of moving parts. One more piece you mentioned earlier, CIFs.
Right, the cross-chain inventory management system, CIMS, this is more advanced. Think of it as the bank's capital efficiency department. It optimizes how collateral is used across chains and enables things like leveraged transactions. It makes the whole system more capital efficient.
So putting it all together, it really does sound like a decentralized, automated bank operating across multiple blockchains.
That's a pretty good way to think about it. It provides a coherent, integrated environment, which is very different from the often disjointed tools builders have today.
This leads us to that concept you mentioned, intralayer as an algorithmic fiduciary. That sounds important and maybe a bit scary. What does it mean for me as a user?
Yeah, fiduciary is a strong word, usually implies a duty of care. Here, it means intralayer uses these automated, decentralized protocols, especially the UFCs, to faithfully execute agents' transactional instructions.
So the code is the fiduciary, not a person.
Exactly. It's like a robot trustee. You deposit funds into the vaults, you set instructions, maybe via a DApp interacting with the UFC, and the platform is bound by its code to find the optimal paths and execute your transaction exactly as specified across potentially multiple networks. It operates under algorithmic reliance, not human discretion.
That's fascinating. It relies entirely on the code being correct and secure. Does the white paper talk about, governance, or what happens if there's a bug or dispute? Who's accountable when it's just algorithms?
That's a great question. The white paper focuses more on the operational aspect, the fidelity of the execution based on pre-agreed logic in the UFCs. The trust model relies heavily on the transparency and auditability of the smart contracts and the security of the underlying proof-of-stake network.
So trust the code, trust the math.
Pretty much. It assumes the decentralized consensus and the verifiable nature of the code replace the need for traditional human oversight and dispute resolution mechanisms in many cases. It's a different paradigm of trust.
Okay. The white paper also talks about intralayer acting as a prime brokerage service. Now, that's usually high finance stuff for big institutions.
Right. Prime brokerage involves services like lending securities, managing collateral, facilitating complex trades. Intralayer aims to bring some of that capability into the decentralized world, mainly through that cross-chain inventory management system, CIMS.
Okay, CIMS again. How does that actually work for, say, a sophisticated DeFi user or maybe a DApp itself? Make it practical.
Okay, imagine you've got assets locked in, say a liquidity pool on DApp1, earning yield. Normally, if you want to take a position or use another service on DApp2 on a different chain, you'd have to pull your assets out of DApp1, bridge them, deposit them in DApp2. It's inefficient, you lose yield.
Yeah, a lot of steps.
With CIMS, the idea is you can leave your assets in DApp1 working for you. You then use those assets as collateral within the intralayer system to essentially lease or borrow the assets you need for DApp2 directly from an intralayer vault.
Ah, so you're using your existing assets without moving them.
Exactly. It massively improves capital efficiency. Your original capital stays deployed, and you get access to other assets leveraging it. The white paper also mentions this allows for leveraged exposure in a decentralized way, potentially replacing things like perpetual futures contracts.
Interesting. So DeFi protocols themselves could use this.
Yeah, the paper suggests AMM protocols, for instance, could leverage their assets to borrow liquidity, allowing them to offer better prices or tighter spreads to their users. It enables more sophisticated strategies, which is definitely an improvement for the more advanced side of crypto.
Okay, that makes sense. So this whole system is incredibly ambitious.
Yeah.
How does it plan to actually get off the ground and sustain itself? What's the business model?
Good question. The white paper outlines a two-phase approach, a bootstrapping phase and then a matured phase.
Bootstrapping first. How do you get people and capital in the door?
The key here is attracting initial liquidity. They propose using something called a Proof of Efficient Liquidity Protocol, or POEL.
POEL. What does that do?
It basically incentivizes early liquidity providers. When you deposit assets, this protocol issues you special credits. These credits are non-transferable, they expire after a while, but you can use them to offset the costs of using intralayer services like swap fees or cross-chain transfer fees.
So it's like getting a discount for being early, a reward for providing liquidity.
Exactly. It's designed to kickstart a self-reinforcing cycle. Good incentives bring in capital. More capital means better efficiency and lower costs, which attracts more users and apps, which brings in more capital. You get the idea.
Right, that classic network effect flywheel. How does this hit the retail community directly?
Well, those POEL credits are a direct benefit. If you're providing liquidity, you're essentially getting cheaper access to the platform's services, makes participation more attractive early on.
Okay, so that's bootstrapping. What happens when it matures?
In the matured phase, the focus shifts. The network starts building up its own network-owned liquidity, or NOL.
NOL. So the protocol itself owned assets.
Yeah, Intralayer would directly own and control a pool of assets. This provides a stable baseline for its operations, makes it less reliant solely on external LTs, and gives it more operational flexibility. Revenue sources also diversify beyond just the DFMM swap fees to include fees from CIMS, that capital efficiency engine, and potentially gas fees for using the core infrastructure.
Why is NOL important?
It's crucial for long-term fiscal sustainability and stability. If the network owns some of its core liquidity, it's more resilient to market fluctuations or LPs suddenly withdrawing funds. This benefits everyone using the platform by ensuring it remains reliable.
The white paper also mentions iAssets. What role do they play in this whole model?
Right. iAssets are interesting. When you, as a liquidity provider, deposit your assets, like ETH or USDC, into an Intralayer vault, you receive a corresponding iAsset, say iETH or iUSDC, issued on Intralayer's own smart contract platform.
So like a receipt token?
Kind of, but they're more active. Holding these iAssets is what entitles you to earn rewards. This includes a share of the fees generated by the DFMM and CIMs, potentially staking rewards if the underlying assets are staked, and those POEL service fee credits during the bootstrapping phase.
So holding the iAsset is how you get paid for providing liquidity.
Exactly. It bundles all the potential rewards. This encourages people to provide liquidity and also encourages usage of Intralayer's own SCP, creating that virtuous cycle again. More liquidity attracts users, drives activity, generates fees, rewarding LPs, attracting more liquidity. It directly impacts both retail LPs and builders who benefit from that deep liquidity.
Okay, this is all very focused on the crypto space itself. But one of the boldest claims in the white paper is Intralayer acting as a pivotal gateway, bridging decentralized finance, DeFi, and centralized finance, CeFi. That's the holy grail for many, right? Bridging crypto and traditional finance.
It absolutely is, and it's a huge undertaking. The white paper acknowledges the challenges, but lays out how Intralayer's architecture could potentially address them.
How so? What are the key challenges it tries to solve?
Primarily, data and value transfer between these two very different worlds. For data exchange, it talks about using its Oracle service, DRRA, for reliable gateways, ensuring semantic interoperability, making sure messages are understood correctly by both sides, and using the UFCs as a policy enforcement engine for compliant interactions with regulated CeFi entities.
Compliance is key there.
Massively. You need rules-based interactions. For value exchange, it focuses on facilitating asset transfer securely between DeFi and CeFi. It even mentions using non-discretionary fiduciary assistance, basically. Trusted off-chain services whose good behavior is guaranteed by staking or insurance to handle parts of the process that might need to interact with traditional systems.
So this isn't just crypto to crypto anymore. This is potentially crypto talking directly and compliantly with banks, with institutions.
That's the vision. They see the UFCs eventually managing workflows that involve both on-chain and off-chain steps, making them truly universal financial controllers.
Wow. What kind of things could that enable?
The possibilities are huge. Think about automating complex workflows that currently involve lots of manual steps between a bank and a DeFi protocol, reconciliation layers to make sure balances match up across systems, even using things like ZK proofs for privacy-preserving checks between the two worlds.
That sounds incredibly powerful. What's the impact there?
It could be profound for crypto and blockchain overall. It massively expands the potential market and utility if it can truly connect to traditional finance rails. For builders, it opens up completely new types of applications, hybrid applications that leverage both DeFi's innovation and CeFi's infrastructure and reach. And for institutions, it offers that potential rules-based compliance layer they need to safely access DeFi opportunities. It really could boost that international economic and financial integration the paper talks about.
Okay. We've certainly covered a lot of ground, from that core problem of fragmentation through Intralayer's big objectives, the nuts and bolts of its architecture, this idea of an algorithmic fiduciary.
All the way to its business model and this really ambitious vision of bridging DeFi and CeFi. The white paper definitely paints a compelling picture of a future digital finance world that's much more connected, efficient, and integrated.
So let's bring it back to you, our listener. What's the takeaway? This white paper suggests a potential future where dealing with all sorts of digital assets and services across different chains becomes way simpler, cheaper, and just more efficient with your capital.
Yeah, it's a blueprint for builders to create more powerful, connected applications, and maybe a path for the whole crypto world to properly connect with traditional finance.
The big promise is really about liberating capital, letting it flow much more freely without the friction we see today, across different platforms and maybe even between the decentralized and centralized worlds.
Exactly.
So here's a final thought to chew on, something maybe the white paper hints at but doesn't fully explore. If something like Intralayer could truly function as this unified clearing layer, this algorithmic fiduciary managing assets seamlessly across chains, what completely new kinds of financial products or services might emerge? Things we can't even really imagine today because the current fragmentation makes them impossible.
Hmm. That's a great question. Maybe entirely new global derivatives settled instantly across borders, or microlending tied directly into payroll systems globally, decentralized VC funds deploying capital anywhere frictionlessly.
Yeah, the possibilities when you remove those barriers, it's something to think about.
Definitely something to ponder as you continue your own deep dive.
And that's it for this deep dive. We hope you feel a bit more informed, maybe a little inspired by what could be next. Join us next time for another White Paper and Chill.